Resurgent COVID-19 cases are hurting markets and economies around the world. So let's take a look at where we stand in India and around the world and how are things really stacked up. One thing is very clear, the reopening narrative has encountered a reality check in the recent days. Surging COVID-19 cases are a reminder that we are not out of the woods yet. Immediate virus risks mean more lockdowns, as we are seeing, more restrictions, especially into the Easter for Europe and Latin America, for that part of the world. Now in Europe, lockdowns represent a dampening of the economic recovery. Many were saying that the recovery in Europe will be a lot faster than other parts of the world. There's a question mark there. For emerging markets, the impact is twofold. One, of course, it affects economic activity, but also it poses macroeconomic challenges. If things get to a point where more fiscal measures are needed, more help from the state is needed, will it put pressure on things like fiscal deficit, etc.? Vaccine adoption and rollout remains a differentiating factor for markets. US and China, remember, are the core tenets for this big global reflation we've been talking about. And most global economists agree that out of the two, US remains on track in terms of vaccinations, etc. Although China so far is also looking good. I mean, it's not looking bad, but there are concerns. Now, I'm going to present some data, and this is data as of the 22nd of March, which looks at the pace of vaccinations across some of the big economies. Not all countries provide all the data. I mean, for example, the breakup between the first dose and the second dose. As you can see here, Israel is far ahead of others. It has been so right from when vaccinations began. The first vaccine appeared. The US is also doing quite well. The UK is moving ahead at a good pace too. But what about other countries in Europe? Not so much. Take a look at the largest economy there, Germany. The pace has been very slow, poor. In Asia, we come to India, and these numbers would have ticked up a little bit as the data is a few days old, as I said. But, I mean, things need to pick up here as well. And the last, of course, we end with Japan. The point is that the pace of vaccinations must pick up. I mean, if we were to do a little bit of projecting, basically, and look at how long it would take for these countries to give 80% of their populations the first shot of vaccine, I mean, this is where figures stand. 1 month for Israel, 3 months for the US, nearly 4 months for the UK, 10 months in Germany. Okay, so while new restrictions are likely to be extended, the question is, how will all of this derail economic activity? 3 points here. I mean, they're nothing new, but I think important to take stock of. First of all, the economy can and has adapted to COVID-19 restrictions. This is not new anymore. Second, lockdown measures and restrictions are far less severe this time around as compared to what we saw earlier. And three, this is not just for governments, policymakers, for large populations as well. The shock factor is gone, right? Now, just 1 point on markets as I wrap this up. The magnitude of the reopening rally always meant that pullbacks were almost always inevitable, and that is what we are seeing here. So, you know, the correction that we are seeing is not something new, shocking, or unique. But, you know, even as that may be, we know that these new restrictions, etc., could delay the pace of activity normalization and hurt growth around the world. The solution to all of this, I think, is pretty simple. Increase the pace of vaccinations rapidly around the world.